The jig is up, the news is out. Tomlin scrum from the Steelers. Da, 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 da. The Renegade of 9 and 8. That was my next lyric. I can't believe I botched my lyrics. It's amazing when you work in the news business and you're just sitting down to record something and your plan was all laid out. We were going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, about the Texans letting so many things fumble, and then the news just lands right in our lap as the AV Club is recording, just as we get to talk about the fresh hog goo that is the news that Mike Tomlin has left the Pittsburgh Steelers after 19 seasons. So join me to react to this. Of course, we've already done an instant reaction, but to give some even more reaction is Craig Rigdon and Ben Costello. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. Looking forward to talking because it's been one hell of a weekend.
It's been nuts. This is it's the best weekend of football I can remember, and I'm including last night's game with that, and it was quite turgid, and then obviously blew up in the end. So, just amazing. Ben, how are you? He's muted, is how he is. That's how he is.
Oh my God, I'm muted.
He's useless at the news.
Well, I'm. We start again.
No, keep rolling.
It's been a wonderful weekend of football, as you said. Left speechless after a couple of the games, but looking forward to another week coming up. Just as you think, everything's kind of calming down and leveling it out, and you got a lot of head coaches fired over the last week or so. You think it's leveling out, and on a random Tuesday, no, not the case.
Random Tuesday. A Tuesday after the Steelers lost at home on a Monday night for the first time since 1991. Bill Cowher stat from CBS there that I saw. But it just shows the level of home advantage that they always bring in. So let's talk about this. I'm still raging. I missed the beat of my Renegade song I had in my head. I can't believe I made a mess of that. But it's funny I was saying the Renegade and the 9 and 8. I was trying to as a dig at the fact that Tomlin always got the winning record at the end of the year. Of course, he was 10 and 7 the last 3 seasons, got dumped for the wildcard round in each of those years. Craig, just bring me through what the sense you're looking at this, because I think a lot of people were looking to see this game last night and was like, look, are they ever going to break themselves out of football purgatory? For anybody who didn't see, by the way, the result was 30 points to 6 in favor of the Texans, but with 13 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, the score was 7-6. This was not a blowout game in the end by any means. The Pittsburgh defense, which is a Mike Tomlin speciality, did play a good game, got a hell of a lot of turnovers from CJ Stroud, who did not give up a single fumble all the way through the regular season, gave up 4 in the first half. That's the kind of game it was. But yet they just decided, you know what? This whole thing is to be ripped apart. Rodgers has gone out the door, presumably, and now Tomlin's out the door as well.
Yeah, and it's weird because we are acting like it's a surprise right now, but you take it back, 5-6 weeks, and it was almost inevitably going to happen at the end of the season because the Steelers were really in the mire and they were just kind of stumbling through what was essentially quite a poor AFC North this year. And then all of a sudden it just started to roll a little bit more, and then obviously they got into the playoffs, which by proxy ended John Harbaugh's reign at the Ravens, and you kind of think to yourself, okay, well, there we go. There's the big coach firing that's coming up and everything. And then, like you said, they just stagnated last night. Like defensively, they played well, but were given gifts, like late Christmas presents, basically, from the Texans offense, who just decided to fumble the most obvious, easiest part of maybe an offense, which is the quarterback to center exchange, and it was awful. And the Steelers kind of hung around for a while. But I think the biggest problem is the fact that they bought in Aaron Rodgers, and they thought that this was going to be such a big thing, and it was going to take them over the edge, and they were finally going to get that donkey off the back of of just that playoff drought that they're going through, where they're getting there but nothing is happening. And I'm not, that offense looked like they hadn't played together all season last night. Like they were just so poor. Aaron Rodgers comes out afterwards and gets asked about Pat Freiermuth and why he's not involved in the game, and he says, "I'm asking the same thing." It's like, Aaron, you're a vet, man. Like you've been under center for almost a couple of decades, almost like, and you're asking that question. Like that's your job. It's your job to get him involved. And I don't know. It kind of felt like it was a bit tumultuous throughout the entire season, and they just kind of stumbled their way in. And maybe, they say that he's left, but, this is very much another one of these kind of Vrabel things when he left the Texans, where it was like, was he pushed, or was it like a mutual decision, or has this just been in the works for a while? And, we've now got 3 of the NFL's 15 winningest coaches all time who are now doing the rounds in Harbaugh. Obviously, Tomlin's available. Whether he'll take any interviews, probably not. But then Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy also has been out of the game for a while. Is he maybe the man to come into Pittsburgh and really bring a new offensive mind? Who knows what way they're going to go here? Ben, make sense of this for us. Or what way are you looking at this?
Craig, I love that you're like, oh, we a lot of us were surprised that we didn't see it coming, but you absolutely had the graphic ready to go just on the off chance that it did happen, that it went up 2 minutes after the everything got announced. I
did that graphic. Excuse me. Sorry.
My apologies. I assumed it was Craig.
I say that Craig also had a Tomlin fire graphic in the bag.
Yeah.
I forgot about it when I made that one. So we were both.
That's how panicked you were.
You've double jobbed.
And I panicked. Because I already had the Photoshop file open in front of me because I was doing one for the Rodgers thing that we're going to talk about. I was like, I may do one now. I don't know if Craig's got the one yet. It was only after I posted. I was like, Craig has one with fired written in massive letters. That's the one I should have used.
So, to put that into context, we've had that conversation because we talked about the wording of that post and what is he going to be fired? Is he going to retire? Is he just going to step away? The writing was on the wall somewhat. You look at if you take the two teams that were in the number 4 seed this weekend, drastically different situations. Even though the Steelers were, was it 10-7, 10-8?
10-8 by virtue of the fact that they've lost the playoff game.
Yes.
So
I was like, that number doesn't add up. So 10-7 in the regular season. They win their division, which is a poor division, and they get in and they play abysmally. Where then you look at the Carolina Panthers across the way, who had a worse record than them and backed in on a loss. They end up coming out and playing an excellent game against the Rams. So
the Panthers had a losing record, something that Mike Tomlin has never had as head coach of the Steelers.
Yeah, so it's a tale of two number 4 seeds, and you look at the two teams, you think who has a brighter future. It's undoubtedly Carolina. I know that they're two very different teams in two very different situations, but just to put some context to it. Am I surprised? No. Am I shocked? Also, kind of, yeah. If you look at as a fan with a team who's got a coach in his second year and has had 2 winning seasons since he started, if you were to offer me and tell me that this is the trajectory that my coach is going to be on, you're going to sprinkle in the Super Bowl along the way, and then the end of it, kind of put her out at the end, sign me up. Absolutely sign me up.
But here's the thing about that young coach point you're making, right? And this is why I think the league is getting far more trigger happy, because look at all of the good news stories around the league right now. And it came by virtue of the fact that they sacked somebody. The Patriots got rid of Jerome Mayo, brought in Mike Vrabel. Look at the difference in culture there. The Bears. Ben Johnson has turned the bottling Bears into a team that have had 7 comebacks in the final 2 minutes of this year. Completely changing the DNA of the franchise. Liam Cohen, as much as he's been praised by his own media, oddly, I thought, and in post game, we're all praising him in the job he's done in Jacksonville. Even a couple of years ago, the job D'Amico Ryans has come in and done. So many of these situations where we even talk about Matt LaFleur, even though he's consistently getting the Packers to the playoffs, people are saying, should he be fired? And we're looking at other situations where Todd Bowles only barely missed out in the playoffs of the Buccaneers. Should he be fired? It's almost that hunger for sacking people has almost become, I don't know. We've seen in soccer a lot of times that Manchester United always go to managers and they fire them so easily, but they're never replaced by anybody who actually fixes anything. It's just a zig and a zag. You go from a tactician who's shy at culture to a culture hero who's shy at tactics, and it gets nowhere. In the NFL, it's different because we've seen so many of these sackings work. And now we're in a situation where in the AFC North, the Ravens are looking for a new coach, the Browns are looking for a new coach, the Steelers are looking for a new coach. All 3 of those coaches are being interviewed quite heavily. And I imagine now if Tomlin does go forward to get interviews for other jobs, yet the one guy who I argue probably should have been fired is still in a position in Zach Taylor.
I'm so glad you brought up that, because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are punching the air right now and looking around the room going, what in God's name do we have to do to get me some of that. Like they want that, firing and hiring, and that all of a sudden year 1-2 boost. That's exactly what I'm sure they're looking around going, "What are we doing here?"
But this is the thing, though. I mean, is that the Steelers who famously only have 3 head coaches in their history since the early 60s. Like James Bond was still played by Sean Connery the last time that they fired somebody. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying. Like since then, it's been it's just been a couple of retirements, and then Tomlin, of course, been here for the good to 2 decades. Like if you were born when Tomlin was what was started to become a head coach, you can legally drink in the Republic of Ireland right now. Like, is that the thing, Greg? The people, the Steelers are maybe finally cotton on to the way the rest of the NFL do things, because there's always a Steelers way of doing things, and that's put them at the level that they're at, where they're always good, they're always watchable. Their DNA is a strong defense, but I can't remember the last time anybody sat back and said, "I think the Steelers come in the Super Bowl this year."
No, it's right, and there has been a step culture change in recent years, and I think that comes not just because of the way that franchises look at coaches, but I actually think it more stems from the fans, and I think that there's been a massive culture change across sport in general around the impatience of fans now, and fans wanting that moment. They want to revel in their own team to the point where it's now becoming very much a reactive kind of landscape when it comes to things like this. You only have to look at, like you said, the Matt LaFleur thing, but let's not forget, Eagles fans were booing the coach that got them a Super Bowl last year. There are certain teams out there who will make the playoffs year in, year out, and that's not good enough for fans anymore. When you've got teams like the Giants, the Jets, the Browns, and many more, who just perennially do not make the playoffs. They just kind of ghost through the season, pick up a couple of wins. And the most exciting time for fans of that franchise is draft time more than it is the playoffs. But then you've got all these teams who are making the playoffs, but because they can't get over that one hump, it's the end of the world. And I think that's what's changing the landscape of coaching and why everything's sort of starting to fall in line.
You make a great point there. Sean McDermott, if the Jags hadn't made that comeback at the end of the game on Sunday, when in the end there was a Trevor Lawrence interception, is Sean McDermott also on the chopping block? Like, it's there's obviously sliding doors moment after sliding doors moment, but that's just the level of pressure we're getting now with coaches. I mean, who'd be a head coach? Look, they're getting paid a lot of money, but Jesus, like, it's just it's kind of nuts, like.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I still can't get Renegade out of my head. Oh, I'm going to be singing that now in the car on the way home. Let's talk about the game last night as we're recording, because, look, we'll talk about the Texans in a second. Let's put a bow on the Steelers for here, because the Texans need to, Houston, we have a problem, and it's bad snaps. We're going to get onto that now in a second. But the Steelers, I think you referring to earlier, Craig, in terms of the offense not being able to do much. The run game struggled. The offensive line really struggled. Aaron Rodgers looked like he's just frustrated character again compared to the more teammately kind of person he become during that run where it was kind of peaked when they got that win in Detroit. How, at the end, considering the way his career has gone since he's left Green Bay now, how will Aaron Rodgers, you think, will be remembered? Because I think we're assuming this is his last dance. Maybe it isn't. Aaron Rodgers is famous for his change of heart. He's courted a lot of controversy the last couple of years. His time in New York will not be remembered fondly. Let's put that straight out there. But how is Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, remembered now after the end of his career, which I think has lasted roughly as long as Mike Tomlin has?
Yeah, I mean, he was asked in week 15 if this was it, and he said probably. So you've got to imagine that's the end for him. I don't think he's going to be picked up by a team who is going to be, ready for a run. So he's going to have to deal with issues like either a poor receiving core or a poor offensive line, or a defense that's maybe not up to scratch. So he's going to be on the field a lot quicker and not have that break. So I think that this is the end for him. And Steelers fans were heckling him, telling him to retire as he was walking off the field last night. So it's not like the Steelers nation really want him to stick around. I did have a look at his career, and I think his career will now be remembered in two sections, and that is almost pre-COVID, post-COVID, which kind of seems ironic for Rodgers and the way that he thought about that whole debacle around COVID. But if you look at between 2008 and 2021, he had 12 seasons where he threw for 4,000 yards. And the only two seasons that he didn't throw for 4,000 yards were injury related. Since then, he's thrown 3.6, 3.9, and 3.4 thousand. So not bad, but there's a definite decline there. Whether that's the decline in receivers, obviously we know that he literally ran Cobb, Valdes-Scantling, and some of these other receivers literally to the end of their bodies being able to do anything. I mean, he probably pushed a lot of them further than they were willing to kind of go as a career. But his touchdowns have dropped. He had an average of 35 across that 14 season span. That's dropped to 24 over the past 4 seasons. I think it was 28, 0, 26, and 24 or something like that. This latter part of his career where he's gone from that last year in Green Bay that obviously ended a little bit on the sour note, especially with the fact that Jordan Love was in the wings ready to take over. He goes to the Jets, the Achilles injury, obviously. After 2 plays, we all saw that. The season with the Jets was bad because the Jets had an aging wide receiver core that he just couldn't get anything out of. And then this year where he's almost had the same thing, where he's looking at DK Metcalf, who's been bought in not for him, but for the team. And obviously they traded away Pickens, and Pickens has gone on to have a great season. Metcalf has been up and down, and we know how that ended before the playoffs as well. So I do think he will have his career segregated into 2. He will make it into the Hall of Fame. He will. I don't care what anyone says, it will happen. And that first 14 years proves why. The numbers he put up were on par. I don't think the only 2 people that you would probably say were better than him across that span were Tom Brady and Drew Brees, maybe.
Yep.
And that's it. So he'll be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I think the controversies will sour it a little bit as it came towards the end of his career.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is you go back and look over how good he was and much of it. And look, I've been the first to criticize him about his sort of off-field stuff, not necessarily from a standpoint of the misinformation he was spreading, but just as a distraction from football. I just thought it was unprofessional. And look, he went to that Jets locker room, and I knew from the first day he went into the Jets that it was a match made in Entertainment Weekly heaven, but match made in football hell. In that you're going to a dysfunctional team, and he grew to become a toxic member of that locker room. But you can't deny how fantastic he was at Green Bay, how much we all loved watching him. I loved watching Aaron Rodgers. Never knew when he pulled out that the Hail Mary like it did against Arizona at that time. And we're not for the fact that, had Tomlin gotten, that 3rd Super Bowl of that sort of Steelers mini era and won Super Bowl 45, we would be talking about Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest to never win a Super Bowl, because, and this is not a criticism of Rodgers, it's a criticism of the Packers for not making use of some of the greatest quarterback play of our generation. That not only did they not win another Super Bowl, they didn't win another NFC Championship game. We could talk about like LaFleur and all this against, in the Brady NFC Championship game for going for kick and all this, but I think he will be remembered as a great quarterback who was wasted by a team who, again, could never make that final push. I don't know, Ben, what way you see it. Obviously, your Seahawks have had some pretty good battles with his Packers over the years.
For me, being a fan the last 5-6 years, the closest thing I have comparison-wise to a career is, you look at Russell Wilson. You move on from where you've had a very good span as that starting quarterback, you're putting up great numbers, you're on a Hall of Fame trajectory. All of a sudden you move to another team, it doesn't bode well. You get bumped out of there. You got bumped out of Denver, same way you got bumped out of New York, and then you go play for the Steelers, the exact same team, and you just have a very mid-season. But we all look at Russell Wilson and think he might have played himself out of the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's any question here with Rodgers. He's still the best thrower of the football I think I've ever seen. I think anyone's ever seen. You've got all the off the field stuff that, when it comes down to it, you'd sign yourself up for that first Green Bay stint of his career if it meant dealing with some of those. Absolutely, 10 times out of 10. If it meant you're getting that play on the field. I mean, I don't even, how many MVPs did he win? Is it 3 or 4? I think it's the 4-time MVP. I don't think there's a question of whether he's making a Hall of Fame. I don't think this season stunts that in any way, shape, or form. I think it's exactly the same as his coach. It was just, it's time to hang it up. I think, Shane, you can relate to that as well when you look at Bill Belichick. It sometimes it's just it's time, age gets us all, and the game moves on. And I think that's exactly what we're looking at here. I think he'll be offered. He's absolutely going to get offered next season. I think so. I don't know by who. But you look
Dolphins.
Maybe
might as well.
I'm thinking Colts. I don't know if they want to go ahead with Riley Leonard or something like that. But we've seen a veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan go in there and try pull a Colts team to again. It's time. Let's end it on a particularly low note, and not try kind of just chase season after season. And that's how I see it.
I thought you were making Philip Rivers there for a reference there for a second. I completely forgot about that Matt Ryan was also an Indianapolis Colt. They just love, it's like the MLS. They love the retirement guys. Slight segue, right? An AV Club slight segue. The NFL announced the nominees today for the Don Shula High School Coach of the Year award. I didn't know that Don Shula had a particularly good links to high school coaches, right? The Colts have missed a trick by not nominating Philip Rivers, because he was a high school football coach and he just became their quarterback for a couple of weeks. He just basically took a few weeks off work. Like, why did they not give it to this guy? Fair enough. Like most of these high school football coaches, like a guy called Steve Price in Ponte Vedra High School has been given to Jags. And obviously like good people in their community. But come on, that's a great PR opportunity missed for the Colts there. Anyway, by the way, on your MVP point, Rodgers MVP in 2011, 2014, 2020, and 2021. Those last two, I think, were particularly impressive because they came after Jordan Love was drafted. I think a testament to his temperament, I think, and how he could really use a negative side of him in a positive fashion. And look, we spent 22 minutes off with the Steelers. We've all off season to talk about them because the off season is where they are. They're going to Cancun again at the end of the wildcard week. And the Houston Texans, fun fact for you, the Houston Texans, since they were founded in 2002, have had 6 playoff wins. The Dallas Cowboys, in the same time period, have had 4. Dallas Cowboys aren't even America's team anymore. They're not even Texas's team. The Houston Texans. But Houston Texans do consistently get wins in the wildcard round. It's the 3rd in a row for CJ Stroud and co. CJ Stroud, though, having on a frustrating night. And look, there's few things I hate more watching football than bad snaps and how sloppy they are and how frustrating they can be. Everything you get going in good motion and everything else. There was a lot of that from Houston, particularly in the first half. Like I said, the ball slipped out of CJ Stroud's hands 4 times last night. I think they ended up turning the ball over twice in terms of fumbles in the first half. There's an interception early in the third quarter. Really, really frustrating stuff. Again, the game is 7-6 up, 43 minutes. No, my maths is wrong. 48 minutes through the game. And then eventually the defense took over. And, not to do my best Chris Sims impression, but that Houston Texans defense can win games all by themselves. I'll say that. That's all he ever fucking says whenever he talks about the Texans defense. But I have to say, considering I'm a fan of a team who now are facing against the Houston Texans, and I see how sloppy that offense has been, and CJ Stroud was, and look, they still managed to get first downs. You look at the statistics, like Texas had 21 first downs to only 13 for Pittsburgh. They were 10 of 15 on third down compared to 2 of 14 for Pittsburgh. But you just got a sense there that the occasion was actually starting to get to that Houston offense. But by God, that Houston defense, Craig, is something else.
Yeah, I mean, as everyone knows, I love a stat. I love to find little things. They were only the second team to hold a Rodgers-led squad to under 20 points in his 22 career postseason starts. And they were all over him. They pressured Rodgers non-stop. I cannot figure out this team in the playoffs. I can't figure out if they are going to be done or if they are going to win it all, because they are such an odd team to try and get your head around, because defensively they are phenomenal at everything. They can sack the quarterback, they can stop the run game, they are ball hawks in that secondary, their linebackers hit hard. Like, they are well-rounded, probably more well-rounded than the Broncos defense that everyone keeps lauding, in my opinion. However, their playoff hopes are on a knife edge, because if that defense has a blip, can you trust that offense to be consistent enough to be able to keep you in a game? So, for example, if you look at last night's game where, like we said, towards the end, it was 7-6. If that's a better offense than that Steelers offense, who haven't shown it all season, they're out of sight. Like, there's no question that the Texans are going home. But if CJ Stroud turned it on for 3 games, there's not a hope in hell that anyone beats this team. And Stroud can do it. He's just not... I can't even call him inconsistent, because the scope of his consistency is so goddamn wide. Like, it's baffling how he can make some of the throws that he does and then do some of the things that he does. Like, it makes no sense. He is the hottest and coldest quarterback at any given time. But then you look at Christian Kirk, who's had a poor season, I would say. 130, I have the facts here somewhere. 239 yards and a touchdown during the regular season. 144 yards and a touchdown last night. It's just ridiculous. How can you have 60% of your seasonal output and then put it into that one playoff game?
Oh,
it's his best game of his career, yards-wise as well. The only time he got close, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns showing week 10 of 2019 when he was a Cardinal. Like, just a career game for Christian Kirk that, let's be honest, he's shown nothing over the last 2 seasons at Jacksonville and this season at the Texans. But I cannot figure this team out. And it actually pisses me off a little bit.
Well, Ben, can you figure them out?
I'm in the same boat as Craig here. Next to the Chargers, they're the biggest what if team, you know. And funny, you face them. You face the next what if team again. Like, so, what if they put it together? What if that defense holds the Patriots to, you know, a 1 touchdown, 1 field goal? You know, if you look at the game coming up this weekend where the Patriots playing, what if they hold them to 10 points in the first 3 quarters? Can CJ Stroud put something together and get them in the end zone? Even if they kick a couple of field goals and you're in that close range with a team, they can absolutely, you know, all it takes is one play from CJ Stroud to get them over the edge, because you know that defense is going to show up. That's the only thing that's been consistent about this team all year. I've got high hopes for it. Like, if this is them on a bad day putting up 30 points, God forbid they actually do put it together, because they're going to end up in the Super Bowl. But then the vice versa of that, as Craig said, is they're getting knocked out this weekend.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they put up 30 points. Obviously, you know, like, considerable chunk of that was sort of that sort of defensive stuff. Interesting that Aaron Rodgers was left trying to be the last man trying to tackle. Who was it? Bullock running in that 50-yard interception. But I'm with you guys. I mean, like, the Texans as a franchise, I've done quite well at this round, but they're 0-6 in the divisional round. Not to put them in the same sort of Chargers what if category. It's funny as that sideswipe was, but I agree with you in terms of, like, the ceiling for CJ Stroud is stratospheric, but you just don't know where the floor is in terms of, like, how far it's gone. And that defense has been the rock, and it's been, I agree with you, Craig. This is the best defense in the National Football League, better than I think what Seattle has, and that's no disrespect to Seattle. I'm quite a fan of Seattle's defense, better than what the Broncos have, and we'll talk about their games in a second. You know, I think it's just but what I don't know now is that game where he was sloppy and there was bad snaps and the ball was fumbled and bad interception and all this. Is that it done now? Is that it out of the system, or does the pressure get bigger here? You know what I mean? What do we expect from CJ Stroud?
It's hard to say. It is hard to say. I just don't. Has he really performed in the big games as of yet? Probably not. And this season has been up and down. There were calls for him to be benched and stay benched. There was concussion gate earlier on in the season where we kept saying to ourselves, how long can you be on the sidelines with a concussion? And it seemed like they were going on forever. But I don't know. I can't trust him. It really, really is that black and white.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's the last game sorted and everything out of it. It's a half an hour. We can take a breath. And let's take a breath by just reviewing my favorite moment of the week, other than the fact that we had 2 great games on Saturday, 2 great games and a good game on Sunday, and a very consequential game on Monday night. But at the end, after Philadelphia were knocked out, the only game that a few of us called wrong in our predictions, the Eagles against the Niners. Once again, my lack of faith in the faithful has come and bit me again when it comes to these picks. Even after talking to John Chapman, who really got me excited for the concept of Fred Warner walking out in the Super Bowl as coming back from injury at that point in his home stadium. I still thought the Eagles would win, as did this kid, but sure, that's not how things work in Philadelphia.
Yes, this was a huge letdown. This was my Christmas present, and I got a loss.
Oh, no. You probably would have rather had Cole, huh?
Yeah, probably. I'm feeling 2 of 2 things. A, I want A.J. Brown packing his bags, and I want him somewhere else that is not here. I love you, A.J., but, you can't make those drops in that game. And I also want Kevin Patullo flipping burgers at, the local McDonald's or something. I don't care.
Why do you say that?
Whenever he's an offensive coordinator, it's like he's flipping burgers. One side, he's cooking. One half he's cooking. And the other half is completely raw.
What I love about that is he wasn't just saying, go to McDonald's because I hate you. He actually had the analogy. It's so good.
The analogy is perfect.
Get this kid on ESPN. That was absolutely stone cold. That was.
I want this kid out of here. I want to cook a burger somewhere. This is straight in. Poor old Kevin Patullo is at his house egged, but now he's completely shredded by a guy whose Christmas present was to see the Eagles lose at home and A.J. Brown to be broken up by Big Dom on the sideline. What was both of yours now after that week? What was your favorite game of the weekend just gone? Because we had a great weekend.
I don't think you can look past the Packers Bears. I really don't. I just think that that's pure cinema from 2 different halves that are so different from each other. And the thing that that kind of cherry on top is the amount of times I have watched that Caleb Williams 4th down conversion. It's just ridiculous that you take that freeze frame of just after he's released the ball and he's basically doing the Michael Jordan jump on the back of the Jordans. It's outrageous. It's like a star jump. No quarterback should be able to throw a ball that trajectory into the bucket as well. Let's be honest. It wasn't like it was a difficult catch. He hit that on the money, and just everything about that just elevates it for me.
Ben, what was your biggest?
For me, it had to be Jags Bills. When you look at Bears versus Packers, it was a game of 2 halves. This game, all the way through to the 4th quarter, was just an absolute. It was like a boxing match, where they were just landing hits on one another, and just when you thought someone was getting the edge up, then the lead changed. I think it had 4 fourth quarter lead changes, and I'm thinking that what other games had that or something similar along to that. And you're looking at Bills Chiefs from a couple of years ago, that playoff game where they with the 13 seconds and Mahomes. That's the type of game I was looking at it here. It was just great football across the board. You got a couple of mistakes, and obviously Trevor Lawrence throwing a pick at the end kind of dulled what could have been an amazing comeback. But you just look at Josh Allen, and I think I said it in the group chat a couple of times. He's inevitable. He is literally he is Superman. He's going to put on the cape and he's going to take that team to hopefully the Super Bowl. If you're a Bills fan. But it was just a great game, and that would have been my favorite game of the week, which I called correctly. I would say the betting. I think the betting favorites were the Jags, and I was like, you know what? It seems like one of those games.
I think the betting favorites were actually the Bills, but that's what I was saying in the podcast last week. The bookies had the Bills favorites, but I thought the Jags should have been favorites. I think the line was quite close anyway. It might have moved before the game actually started, depending on how how the injuries goes. But we're going to do something we don't normally do on the AV Club. We're going to go to the 4 games of this weekend and do our picks. And we're not going to quite go in the same level of detail that we would when we're recording on Thursday night / Friday morning's podcast. But let's have a look at these and let's go for a quick early picks. And I know, Craig, and I'll start with you, because I know you were saying you actually haven't made your picks of this yet. I'm putting you on the spot here before you put your names in the sheet. And the first game we have to talk about is when the Buffalo Bills, with Mr. Inevitable, as Ben calls him, Josh Allen, going into the number 1 seed, Denver. Denver have only lost 1 game at home this season. That was that time when the Jags went in and got the job done. Quite impressively, it must be said. They've won all other 8 games at home this year. The Broncos are 1.5-point favorites. It's a close line, but the Bills, who up until last week have not won a road game in the playoffs in the Josh Allen era, do you reckon they could get 2 in a row here and go into Denver and what is going to be a very, very tough day and get a big victory?
But they can, because Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Like it's the things that man can do, and the way he puts his body on the line. And Ben, you put it in the group chat last night, the Batman clip of you've got nothing left to give, and he says there is one more thing, and it does feel like that. It almost feels like Josh Allen is willing to put everything on the line to deliver the Super Bowl for Buffalo. It is just he can't think any other way. The problem is he cannot take the punishment that he took against the Jags again. Like, he just can't. He's making just magic out of nothingness. Like, you look at his receiving core, Gabe Davis goes down, Brandon Cooks, who they were picked up after he was released by the Saints, picked up some great plays. Like, you just worry. And then it's who they're coming up against in Denver. Pat Surtain is a shutdown corner. Like, he is going to force him to play at the elite level. And then that pass rush, and you just worry if this is it. But if there's anything that I've learned by backing the Jags last week, it's that you cannot count out Josh Allen, and anything could happen. Funny stat that I found about Allen, thanks to ESPN. Only the second player in NFL history with a go-ahead passing touchdown and a go-ahead rushing touchdown in the fourth quarter of the same playoff game. The other person was Alex Smith in the 2011 Divisional Round against the Saints. Like, a bit different, 2 different styles of quarterback. But this is a clash of, Denver's ground and pound kind of defense versus Josh Allen's put your body on the line and do or die attitude. But, oh God, I'm going to take Denver.
You're taking Denver. This is the thing, right? Like, I've looked at this and I thought, look, the Bills have the momentum. They have, I think, the game plan. They won't have any fear because they're not facing against Kansas City as much as they're going into the West. I've spoken so much here about how much I think that the Denver are frauds, and I don't know whether the week's rest will help them, but it's just the physicality of that defense versus Josh Allen does make me wonder whether Allen is at a real injury risk here, because he's carrying a foot injury. It looked like he hit his hand quite bad. He was given a concussion check. The weekend was gone. He seemed to be very sore. So, yeah, it's all there for the Broncos to just bring this into a physical, old-style game and just get enough done in the fourth quarter like they've done so often this year. That said, I'm taking Buffalo. Ben?
I'm looking at I actually called the AFC correct across the board, so I got to go off I'd love to go off my playoff predictions, but just after watching that game, I did initially at the start of the playoffs pick the Broncos just because of that defense. They were a lot more consistent across the board, and again, you worried about Josh Allen's receiving core. I did have the Broncos, but you can't help but want to watch Josh Allen get to a Super Bowl and carry that team. So I got the Bills. I think he is that difference maker. They played last year in a playoff game and they blew them out. Obviously, 2 very different teams. One got a lot better. One got significantly worse. Whether it be through free agency or injuries. But I think if you meet somewhere in the middle, I think you're on for a great game.
I actually really forgot. I forgot that they faced each other last year. Of course, that's a good shout. Maybe there's a sort of nice mental one-upmanship, I think, for both of these teams, which actually might suit Buffalo better because they've been at the stand for more often. As good as Sean Payton is, and I know you're a big fan of Sean Payton. We flip over to the NFC side on Saturday night. That first game kicks off at 9:30 Saturday night. At 1 a.m. Saturday night going to Sunday morning, we get a rematch of San Francisco 49ers going in to Seattle. These two teams only played 2 weeks ago when the 49ers could get pretty much nothing done on offense. I think we can expect something different here from the 49ers. I'm not expecting that offensive performance to be repeated. These two teams, the last time they played each other in Seattle was in September when the Niners came away 17 to 13-point victors, a game where Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions but still managed to get enough done with the rest of his offense. I mean, I'll be honest, I was sitting back in this and I thought that the Eagles would win, and I was full on ready to come on here and tell all the reasons why I think the Rams are going to hammer the Seahawks in the divisional round. That's not the way it's come out. It's going to be Seahawks versus 49ers, and I'm not going to try and repeat my mistakes of last week from not having faith in the faithful, but I don't think this is the game where Sam Darnold blows up, which is quite a possibility. I think that defense is too strong, and look, the loss of George Kittle didn't really affect the 49ers last week as much because it was mid-game and Philadelphia was kind of beating themselves more than anything else. We were talking about that in terms of the cultural difference last night in the show. I don't know if it's going to happen in Seattle. Look, how many times has some idiot on a podcast looked at all the injuries that the 49ers have had and said, I don't know, I think that's one injury too many, and the 49ers are going to win anyway. But I think actually this might be one injury too many. I'm back in the Seahawks. Ben.
Look, I'm not going to take up too much time with it. Of course, I'm back in the Hawks. It would be an easy gimme to just turn around and say, look at week 18 and say, copy paste. It's absolutely, I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think it's going to be a much different game plan for San Francisco. I've talked all year about how good a coach job they've gotten, and I think he's going to look at what they did well, what they did poorly, and fix that. And I can't, look at the injury to George Kittle and think that it's going to make a big difference. We got beaten week 1 when Jake Tonjes replaced him and came in and caught that late game touchdown to beat us. So, I still think we're going to win it. I think it's going to be a different ball game. I think it could be higher scoring than the last affair, but, our defense is rested now. They've been treating it like what it is, and it's the biggest game of the year. They've not switched off by all accounts from the media and people in Seattle. So, yeah, I got Seattle. No surprise.
And Craig.
Ben didn't get any wrong on the AFC side. I didn't get any wrong on the NFC side. And I'm not changing. I still have the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. And to do that, they have to go through San Fran. And I just feel like what San Fran were able to do to the Eagles was because of the fact that, as you've rightly said, the Eagles are a dysfunctional team at the moment who can't get out of their own way. The Seahawks are exactly the opposite of that. They are a team who know what they are doing, and defensively, they are, on the NFC side at least, the best defense that are there. I think that the 49ers is a great story, and the way that everything's gone for them with the sort of injuries has been great, but defensively they have still been susceptible. And I think that the Seattle offense will find enough there just to be able to cap off what their defense starts. So it is the Seahawks for me.
Interesting, the QuinnBet line in this has the Seahawks 7.5-point favorites, is by far the biggest at the playoff weekend. Interesting to see how that one will actually shake off. I'm surprised to see a divisional round game with a 7.5-point spread.
That scares me almost. That's that's too much bad energy putting out there. Like it's like when something's too good to be true.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, something I'm scared of is that Houston Texans defense is the New England Patriots. On 8:00 on Sunday night, we're playing against the Houston Texans. An interesting battle between a team with a red logo with a bit of blue in it as a star versus a team that's has the blue and red logo as a star in it. Both of these teams almost seem like copycats of each other when it comes to the branding, but not in terms of the on-field production, because we definitely have a strength versus strength in terms of the Patriots offense versus the Houston Texans defense. And what I would have thought would have been a much more weakness versus weakness between the Houston offense and the Patriots defense. Had the Patriots defense not played so well on Sunday just gone. So, Craig, before I weigh in with whether I will stick with my original belief that the Patriots will be one and done if they face a team that wasn't the Chargers or the Steelers, or whether I have actually sort of built belief, give me your sense of this game and how this matchup will shake up, because going from a road game in Pittsburgh to a road game in Foxborough is going to be a tricky transition for this Houston team. But like I was saying, that defense, if any defense can do it, it's them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you talk about the sort of weakness versus weakness of that Texans offense versus the Patriots defense, which, like you said, they did do really well against the Chargers. And actually, I think they're better than people give them credit for, that defense. I don't think it's been amazing, but they have been solid enough to be able to obviously carry them into the playoffs and could carry them further. My biggest worry for this game is that Texans defensive front against the offensive line of the Patriots, who have come off a game against the Chargers where it did not look very good. Now, the only saving grace, in my opinion, is Drake May and how efficient he is, how accurate he is, and how quickly he can get the ball out. Because if there was one thing that we did see from Aaron Rodgers yesterday in that very brief amount of offensive kind of acumen that they could put on the field, it was that when the ball came out quickly, or if he sort of, a play action came around the back as on the run and was able to make a short check down, they were actually able to move the ball sometimes. It was just the fact that they just stalled. Now, I think if Drake May is quick enough, they can beat this Texans defense. I think it all comes down to how that offense plays. Now, if I was basing it on last night, you wouldn't back it at all. But you almost get to that mentality of that team can't be that bad twice in 2 weeks. But I still am going to take the Patriots, because I just feel like if anyone can take out and take away what the defense is strong at, it is Drake May.
I think for me, it's a race to see which of these quarterbacks can have a good game first. Because Drake May did not have a good game. Like, he had 40% completion percentage in the first half. The offense just looked a bit confused against a very good Chargers defense, one of the best they've faced this year. But I don't know whether it's just a sense of the occasion, or like even, it was just unusual. Like, I just saw Drake May during the pictures of walk in. He actually he didn't look tired for some reason. I don't know what he was like ill. He wasn't even clean shaven, which is funny because he plays in Gillette Stadium, but you can still see like a bit of stubble on him. And I'm like, I don't know whether it's like a small little sign. I'm like thinking, is there something wrong with Drake here today? And the first half, he ended up actually having a pretty good game. But if you look at this stats wise, but in terms of how he felt, it didn't feel like MVP Drake May. There was one pass, particularly to Pop Douglas, where he sailed it past the end zone, where normally he puts those, laser guided. But and the thing about the Texans defense is, people are talking about the Patriots offensive line. Texans defense, in terms of their pressure rate, is average. They're 18th in terms of pressure rate. So it actually doesn't necessarily matter how strong their offensive line is, because they're really good at stopping a quarterback who drops back. They're the best in the league at stopping a quarterback who drops back. But they don't do it by necessarily pressuring you. They just do it by just closing enough of a gap that you actually can't do anything. And I think that's going to be very tricky for the Patriots to deal with. But I trust that Josh McDaniels will have a good plan for that, because he's had a good plan. He's always given Drake two options to throw to, one short and one long, in everything he's designed this year. And I'm going to renege now on my original belief, mainly partly because of how bad the Houston offense played, but mainly just because I'm going hard over head here, because who knows, it's the playoffs. Why not? I'm going for the Patriots to win this game. Ben?
Yeah, I've got the Patriots winning this game. I'm not gonna harsh on it too much. I think they're just a much more well balanced team than the teams the Texans played last night. I think Drake, you take away the pass, he's gonna open it up with his legs. He's got that ability that Rodgers didn't have. And I think if it's a close game for 3.5 quarters, like it was, or if that's what the offense that the Houston are putting out, I think that Mike Vrabel is not going to have that, and he's going to have that well correct by the time the second half goes. So yeah, I got the Patriots winning with a hint of would not be surprised if CJ Stroud comes out and puts out an absolute blinder of a game.
Blinder is a word I haven't heard in a while. Was talking other isn't something was about some stupid thing in soccer. What I don't like about that is the fact that all three of us picked the Patriots. Usually that's not a good sign for if we're all on the same page. Mind you, our brackets have been fairly okay. I think the only game I got wrong was the Eagles Niners one, which is rare that I actually get things right. Although a couple of years ago in the newspaper, I was 6-0 in the wildcard round and got the rest of the postseason wrong. So who knows? Divisional round is usually where things start turning around for me. Final game we're going to talk about is a Sunday night game, 11:30 p.m. kickoff. As Chicago Bears host the LA Rams. Interesting, the LA Rams have not played in weather below or colder than 45 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 7 degrees Celsius this season. It's going to be it could be as low as -11 and windy on the banks of Lake Michigan on Sunday. Now, look, it was snowy, and everyone was saying this coast-to-coast thing, and the cold weather would kill the Rams against the Eagles last year, and the Rams were the ones that was the closest to putting anything up to a really, really strong Eagles outfit last year. Interestingly, had the Rams been going to Seattle, they would have opened up as 1.5 point underdogs in Seattle. But instead, because they're going to Chicago, they are 3.5 point favorites against a Bears team who, as much as we talk about how fantastic the comeback was, were bad for 3 quarters. Let's put it straight. And Caleb Williams is a marvel in that he's the worst completion percentage in the league. I think he's like 50%. I had the stat here. Craig, you'll be disappointed. I had a stat and I don't have it anymore. 58% completion percentage, but his average yards per attempt is 7, or in some other metrics is 8.4 per air yards in terms of when you're actually trying to throw forward. That's the average yardage you get, which is the highest in the league. It's incredible sort of high reward for whenever he actually does make a pass for this offense. And look, there's no reason why we should not believe in Ben Johnson in a home game in front of the home crowd and all that's happening around Chicago right now. They are probably the story of the league at the moment, but I'm backing the Rams despite the fact that they got a bit of a scare against the Panthers. They didn't end the season particularly well, struggled in the first half in the last game of the season against the Cardinals. Made a mess of Monday Night Football against the Falcons. Probably still haven't mentally recovered from what happened against the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks previous. But I still think they have enough to go in and win this because, to be fair, I had the Rams going all the way and winning the Super Bowl in my bracket, so I'm going to stick with that. Craig?
I have the Rams in my bracket, and I'm going to go against it. I am going to take the Bears, and that is a big shout from me because normally I am one to stick with my gut, but this is just it. I don't know. There's something about this Bears team. They are never down. They just seem to be able to make the changes that need to be changed. I could see the first half being something where they're kind of feeling out the Rams a little bit, and they might end up going into the half down. But it just feels like Ben Johnson has his coordinators and his team able to kind of reset at halftime and reset the mentality of the players and say to them, look, this, if we're close enough, which, I mean, it doesn't really matter after what happened with the Packers. They could be as close as they need to be, but they just seem to find a way to be able to overcome adversity. I just feel like they're going to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really back against them when they keep doing it, though. You know what I mean? So I understand where you're coming from. It's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it. Ben, final word to you.
I got the Rams taking this. You look at the circumstances that went around that Packers-Bears game, as great as it was, and I know the Rams have fired their special teams coordinator earlier in the season, and that doesn't bode well for kicking. But if you're the Packers and you leave, I think it was 7 points. I think they left on the board with kicking woes. I think the Bears narrowly escaped and got a great story out of it. I think that's going to come to an end facing this Rams team, who I think if they get out to an early lead like the Packers did, they are not going to give it up. So I got the Rams taking this and then meeting us in the NFC Championship game,
which would be a great game. Breaking news, gentlemen! Breaking news. The Eagles have informed Kevin Patullo they're making a change as offensive coordinator. Kevin Patullo, you can flip burgers in peace. Are we surprised at that? No, not really. I don't think it's worthy of an instant reaction podcast compared to the news coming out of Wentworth, Pennsylvania. No more eggs being thrown at his house. I tell you who is going to take that job. Mike McDaniel.
Oh,
As offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles.
I tell you,
It's just-
I tell you who my shout is. Brian Dable.
Brian Deb? What, is he going to follow Saquon?
No, he is going to go and coach one of the quarterbacks that he had when he was at Alabama. And Jalen Hurts.
He could end up doing that with Matt Jones somewhere else. Who knows? He doesn't have a great record with quarterbacks named Jones. Look, any excuse to play this kid again.
Yes, this was a huge letdown. This was my Christmas present, and I got a loss.
Oh no, you probably would have rather had Cole, huh?
Yeah, probably. I'm feeling two of two things. A, I want A.J. Brown packing his bags, and I want him somewhere else that is not here. I love you, A.J., but, like, you can't make those drops in that game. And I also want Kevin Patullo flipping burgers at, like, the local McDonald's or something. I don't care.
Why do you say that?
Whenever he's an offensive coordinator, it's like he's flipping burgers. One side, he's cooking. One half he's cooking. And the other half is completely raw.
Well, Merry Christmas, kid. You didn't get the win, but you got Kevin Patullo flipping burgers somewhere else. You're going to have A.J. Brown going. Interesting quote here, right? This is what Nick Sirianni said in a statement. I have decided to make a change at offensive coordinator. Nick Sirianni making sure everyone knows I'm still the boss here. It's not Big Dom. It's not A.J. Brown. It's me and my kids who are usually I bring into press conferences to get away from harsh questioning. But anyway. Right, that's it for the AV Club. Brought to you in association with the TapHouse Bar and Grill in Ranelagh, where you can watch Red Zone as well as that great action. The matchup between the Patriots and the Texans is going to be at 8 o'clock on Sunday. It's a perfect one to get out of the house on a Sunday evening. For now, gentlemen, for a bumper edition of the AV Club, we're nearly hitting the hour mark. Thank you very much for listening.